This story is a work of fiction. All characters, organizations, and events are entirely invented for dramatic and emotional purposes. The Hells Angels name is used fictionally and does not represent the real organization or its members. This story contains mature themes including domestic abuse, corruption, and confrontation. Viewer discretion is advised. The eviction notice is still on the kitchen table when the story begins. Not pinned, not weighted. Just lying there in the gray morning light like something that had given up trying to hold itself together. Its edges already curling from the overnight damp that crept under the trailer door every autumn in Cutter's Bend, Arizona. The paper is dated November 3rd. The deadline written at the bottom, underlined twice in red ink by a hand that clearly enjoyed the underlining, reads, November 4th, 6 p.m. That is tomorrow. No. By the time the sun has fully cleared the Sonoran ridgeline and begun throwing pale gold through the kitchen window, it is already today. Her name is Mae Whitfield, and she is 47 years old, and she is standing at the kitchen counter in a house she has lived in for 11 years, with a coffee mug pressed between both palms like it is the only warm thing left in the world. Because this morning, it might be. She does not read the notice again. She already knows every word. She knows the county seal at the top, slightly off-center, smudged on the left corner where someone pressed too hard. She knows the legal language in the second paragraph, the part about Sheriff Dale Rourke being authorized to enforce removal, the part about personal property being subject to county seizure if not vacated by the stated deadline. She knows the signature at the bottom, Raymond Cutler, property owner. And she knows what that name means in this town, because Raymond Cutler owns almost everything in Cutter's Bend, including, it turns out, the ear of the sheriff, who shares his family name, and the patience to wait until she was most alone before moving. Mae takes a sip of coffee, sets the mug down, goes to the window. Outside, the desert is doing what it does in early November, turning the sagebrush silver, frost-edged and quiet. The kind of quiet that seems gentle until you understand that it is the quiet of a place that does not care whether you stay or go. A hawk sits on the fence post at the edge of her lot. It has been there every morning this week, and she has started to find this either comforting or ominous. This morning she cannot decide which. Behind her, down the short hall, her daughter is sleeping. Lily, 8 years old. Missing her 2 front teeth, prone to nightmares, currently curled around a stuffed dog named Captain that has been washed so many times his eyes have gone from black to a faded brown that Mae finds heartbreaking. Lily does not know about the notice. Lily thinks today is just a Tuesday. Mae is going to let her have that for a few more hours. There is a box on the floor near the front door. 1 box. Mae started packing last night at midnight and stopped after 20 minutes because the act of putting their life into cardboard made something in her chest feel like it was being taken apart with a tool she did not recognize. She packed Lily's baby photos. She packed the 1 framed picture she has of her mother. She packed the folder with their important documents, birth certificates, Lily's school records, Mae's nursing aid certificate from 2019 that she never got to use because the clinic in Cutter's Bend stopped hiring the moment she put in her application, and she has always known exactly why. The folder is held together with a blue rubber band. It is the most important thing they own. She did not pack the coffee mug. She could not figure out why. The thing about Raymond Cutler is that this has nothing to do with unpaid rent. Mae knows that. She has the bank statements. She has 12 years of money orders, everyone photographed on her phone before she put it in the mail, everyone with the date and the amount written on the back in her careful, looping handwriting. 11 years of payments, 11 years of on time, without complaint, through the drought summer of 2021 when the water bill tripled, and through the month her car died, and she walked 4 miles each way to her shift at the diner because she would not miss a payment, not ever, not once. The payments are all there. The record is clean. What is not clean is what happened 3 months ago at the Cutter's Bend Town Hall meeting, when Mae Whitfield stood up in front of 40 people and said out loud, clearly, with her hands steady and her voice only slightly shaking, that Raymond Cutler's proposed development of the South Lot would destroy the groundwater access for the 12 trailer homes on Mesa Road, including hers. She said it. She named it. She had the hydrologist's report printed at the library, highlighted in yellow, and Raymond Cutler sat in the front row and smiled at her with the kind of smile that is actually a promise. He smiled, and she kept talking because she could not stop herself, because someone had to. And when she sat back down, the woman next to her, Darlene, from 3 lots over, touched her arm and said quietly, "You know what you just did, don't you?" Mae knew. She just did not know it would happen this fast. The notice came 6 days later, 24 hours to vacate. No reason cited beyond a clause in the original lease about the owner's right to reclaim property for personal use. A clause Mae had never thought about in 11 years because she had never believed anyone would use it this way, not against a woman who had never missed a payment, not against a family, not against a child. She was wrong about that. She stands at the window with her coffee going cold in her hands, and she watches the hawk on the fence post, and she thinks about where they will go. Her sister in Flagstaff has a 1-bedroom apartment and a boyfriend who does not like children. The women's shelter in Tucson has a waiting list. There is a motel on Route 9 that rents weekly, and Mae has done the math 17 times, and the math does not work beyond the first 2 weeks. After that, there is nothing. There is the back seat of a 2008 Honda Civic with a cracked dashboard and a heater that works on the left side only. She refills her coffee. She does not cry. She has decided she will not do that until Lily is somewhere safe, and she is not sure when that will be, so she has decided not to do it at all. The diner where Mae works is called the Flat Rock Grill, and it sits at the junction of Highway 93 and Mesa Road, like something that has been trying to leave for 40 years but keeps forgetting its keys. The parking lot is cracked asphalt patched with gravel. The sign has been missing its second L for a decade, so it reads Flat Rock Gry L, and the regular customers find this charming, and the new ones find it mysterious. Inside, it smells of burnt coffee and bacon fat, and the particular kind of permanence that comes from a place that has fed the same people for 3 generations. The booths are red vinyl, patched in 4 places with black electrical tape. The jukebox in the corner still works if you kick it twice on the left side. Mae has worked the morning shift here for 9 years. She knows where every crack in the linoleum is. She knows which table wobbles and which stool at the counter spins freely and which one will dump you on the floor if you trust it. She knows every regular by name, by order, by whatever quiet trouble they are carrying on any given morning. She is that kind of woman. The kind who notices, the kind who remembers, the kind who 9 years in still refills your coffee before you ask, because she has already read the look on your face from 6 feet away. This morning, she drives Lily to school first, buckles her in, fixes the strap on her backpack that keeps slipping, watches her walk through the school doors with Captain the stuffed dog peeking out the top of her bag because the teacher allows it on Tuesdays, and Lily has never once forgotten which days are dog days. Mae sits in the car for a moment after the doors close. The building is ordinary brick, weathered, the flagpole out front with a flag that could use replacing. She memorizes it the way you memorize a thing when you are not sure how many more times you will see it. She drives to the diner, she ties her apron, she begins. By 9:15, the breakfast rush has thinned to the usual holdouts. Old Frank DeLuca nursing his 3rd coffee at the counter, the Hendersons in booth 2 sharing a newspaper, a couple of truckers at the back table talking about the wind on I-10. Mae is wiping down the counter when she hears it. Not one engine, many. A low, layered rumble that comes from somewhere north, from Highway 93, the kind of sound that has texture to it. that you feel in your back teeth before you hear it with your ears. Everyone in the diner stops. The truckers stop mid-sentence. Frank DeLuca sets down his cup. Mae straightens up from the counter with the rag still in her hand, and she looks out the window at the parking lot and the highway beyond. They come in 2 by 2 at first, then 4 abreast, then filling the road the way a river fills a canyon, steady and deep and without apology. Motorcycles. Dozens of them, and then more dozens, each one ridden by a man in leather, some with their colors bright in the morning sun, some road darkened, and the sound they make together is not loud the way a crowd is loud, but low the way a mountain is present, felt in the floor through the soles of your shoes, resonant and certain. They do not stop at first. They roll past on 93 in a river of chrome and leather, heading toward Mesa Road, and everyone in the Flat Rock Grill watches them go in complete silence. Frank DeLuca speaks first. "Lord," he says, "how many is that?" Mae does not answer. She is watching the window. And then one bike pulls off the highway and turns into the lot. A big machine, dark blue, running boards worn silver, a man on it who could be anywhere between 45 and 55. It is hard to tell with a man who has lived the way his face suggests. He parks. He kills the engine. He sits for a moment with his hands resting easy on his thighs, looking at the diner, and then he swings his leg over and walks toward the door like he has been here 100 times and would not mind being here 100 more. He is followed by 3 others. They come in together, find the big corner booth, settle into it with the ease of men who have learned to make themselves comfortable in rooms that go quiet when they enter. The diner has gone quiet. The Hendersons have folded their newspaper. The truckers are suddenly very interested in their plates. Mae walks to the corner booth with her order pad. She looks at the man who came in first. He has a scar along his jawline, pale and old, the kind you stop noticing after a while because it has become part of the face it lives on. He has gray at his temples and dark eyes that are not unkind. His vest is worn black leather, and across the back it reads what she expected it to read. His name, she will learn in a few minutes, is Jackson Cole. But the men with him call him Hawk. "Coffee?" Mae asks. "4," Hawk says. His voice is lower than the rumble of the motorcycles and somehow warmer. She pours. She goes back to the counter. She can feel the other customers watching her, and she does not look at them. She can feel the question in the room, thick as the bacon smoke. What are 200 motorcycles doing parked on Mesa Road in Cutter's Bend, Arizona, on a Tuesday morning in November? She brings the men their coffee. Hawk wraps both hands around the mug and looks up at her. There is something in his look that is direct without being aggressive, a steadiness that she finds herself locating somewhere in her chest before she can stop herself. "You Mae Whitfield?" he asks. She goes still. The rag in her other hand stops moving. "Who's asking?" she says. "My name's Hawk. Ride with the Black Iron chapter out of Flagstaff." He takes a sip. "Your sister called us." This is the part of the story where Mae nearly puts the coffee pot through the table. Because her sister Carol, in Flagstaff with the 1-bedroom apartment, and the boyfriend who doesn't like kids, apparently knows people that Mae did not know Carol knew. And apparently Carol, upon hearing about the eviction notice from Mae 2 nights ago in a phone call that Mae had tried to keep calm and businesslike and had failed at both of those things, had made a phone call of her own, and that phone call had reached Hawk, and Hawk had made a phone call after that, and then another, and then it was 10:30 at night, and a chain of calls was moving through the high desert like lightning through dry grass. Mae stands with the coffee pot in her hand, and she does not know what to say. "Sit down for a second," says the man to Hawk's left. He is enormous, with a blonde beard going gray and a gentleness around his eyes that seems contradictory, until you accept that large men are sometimes the gentlest ones of all. His name is Tank, and he says it not like an order, but like an offering. Mae looks at the counter. Frank DeLuca is pretending to read a menu. The truckers have gone back to talking. The Hendersons have refound their newspaper. She sits. Hawk puts a folded piece of paper on the table between them. She opens it. It is a copy of the eviction notice, but annotated. Notes in the margins, legal citations, something circled in red. "Where did you get this?" she says. "Your sister faxed it. Carol has a fax machine?" "The bar we use has a fax machine." A pause. "It's 2019 technology in a 2024 building. We make do." Something in Mae almost laughs, and the almost laugh surprises her more than anything that has happened this morning. She presses it down. The man to Hawk's right, lean and quiet with a silver cross at his collar, is called Preacher. He spreads a hand-drawn map on the table beside the annotated notice. It is a map of Mesa Road. Her lot is marked with a small X in pencil. There are 12 other lots marked, too. She recognizes them. Darlene's lot, the Garza family, old Mr. Hendricks, who has been there longer than anyone. 12 families in total who spoke at that town hall meeting. 12 families who are all, she realizes with a cold roll in her stomach, facing their own version of this. "All 12, she says. "All 12, Hawk confirms. "Yours is the first deadline. His plan is to do them one at a time. Less noise that way." The fourth man at the table, dark hair, sharp jaw, quiet in the way of someone who spends more time watching than talking, is Ghost. He hasn't said a word. He is looking at the door. "How many came?" Mae asks. Hawk looks at her steadily. 214. The diner holds its breath. Mae looks down at the annotated notice in her hands, at the red circle around the clause Raymond Cutler used, and next to it, in Hawk's handwriting, 3 words, "Not applicable here." Below that, a statute number. Below that, the words, "Signed lease supersedes." "I have a lawyer friend in Tucson," Preacher says. "She looked at this last night. What Cutler invoked, that clause was invalidated by a state tenancy amendment in 2021. He can't use it, not legally. What he's doing is an unlawful eviction." He leans forward slightly. "But he's counting on the fact that you don't know that, and that the sheriff is going to show up at 6 p.m. tonight and you'll be gone already." Mae is quiet for a long moment. Outside, through the window, she can see the line of parked motorcycles along Mesa Road stretching further than she can track, chrome catching the November sun. A few riders sitting on their bikes, not moving, not hurrying, just present in the way of a fact that has decided to stay. "What are you going to do?" she asks. "We're going to be there," Hawk says. "When the sheriff shows up." She looks at him. "That's it?" "That's it." She thinks about this. She is a practical woman. She thinks about the physics of the situation. 214 motorcycles parked on Mesa Road, 214 riders standing on her lot at 6 p.m. when Sheriff Dale Rourke arrives with his deputies and his clipboard. And she thinks about the weight of that number, the sheer visible, undeniable presence of it. And she understands something that she could not have understood before this morning, which is that sometimes the most powerful thing in the world is not a weapon and not a lawsuit, but the simple act of showing up in a number that cannot be ignored. "My daughter comes home at 3, she says. "We'll be quiet," Tank says, and he says it with such genuine seriousness that she believes him completely. She stands. She picks up the coffee pot. She looks at Hawk for a moment and she says, "Breakfast is on me." She walks back to the counter before he can argue. She is going to need to understand how they got here. She is going to need to understand what kind of men these are, and she will. But not yet. First, she needs to get through her shift because people in this diner still need their eggs and their toast and their coffee refilled because the world keeps its ordinary schedule even when everything else has stopped making sense. But between table runs, between refills, she catches fragments. She overhears the quiet conversation in the corner booth. She learns things in pieces, the way you always learn the things that matter. She learns that Hawk, Jackson Cole, lost his wife 7 years ago. Her name was Elena. She died in a hospital in Phoenix after a landlord failed to repair the heating in the building she lived in, while Jackson was on a long run and could not get back fast enough and has not forgiven himself for that particular geography of timing in the 7 years since. Elena was 42. She had brown eyes and a laugh that Hawk will describe only once tonight, later, standing on Mae's lot in the November dark. And when he does, he will look at the ground while he speaks. After Elena, Hawk made what the Brotherhood calls a vow, though it was never written and never spoken aloud in formal terms. He simply began. When someone in trouble crossed his path, or crossed the path of someone he knew, he paid attention. He made calls. He showed up. The Brotherhood had always had its own code: protect the vulnerable, keep your word, stand where others run, but Hawk had given that code a specific and daily life after Elena, had built it into the structure of every week, every ride. The other men followed because they recognized something in it, because most of them carried their own version of the same arithmetic: a loss, a regret, a door they had not gotten to in time. They could not undo those things, but they could show up today, and today was always what mattered. Mae does not hear all of this at once. She hears the edges of it, the corners. The rest she will understand slowly, across the day, the way you understand a landscape by riding through it rather than looking at it on a map. At noon, she calls Lily's school. She tells them she will pick Lily up herself today. The woman on the phone says okay, and Mae says thank you, and then sits in the break room for 3 minutes with her eyes closed. By 2 in the afternoon, the riders have organized themselves along Mesa Road with a quiet efficiency that is its own kind of eloquence. They are not rowdy. They are not loud. They are parked in rows along the road shoulder, and some of them have walked up and down the street, and a few have knocked on the doors of the other 11 trailers to introduce themselves and explain what is happening, and in every case the reaction from inside those trailers has been the same: a silence, then a door opening wider, then a face, often a woman's face, sometimes an older man's, looking out at the row of motorcycles and the leather-vested men and going through the same rapid recalibration that Mae went through at 7 this morning. Darlene from Lot 7 calls Mae at 2:15. "Mae," she says, without preamble, "there are 200 bikers on my street." "I know," Mae says. "One of them helped me bring in my groceries." "That would be Tank." A pause. "He's very large." "Yes. He was very gentle about the eggs." "I know," Mae says again, and this time she is smiling, and it is the first time she has smiled since Sunday. She picks up Lily at 3. Lily climbs into the car with her backpack and captain and 3 drawings from art class and immediately begins telling Mae about a girl named Piper who brought a lizard to school in her coat pocket, and Mae listens to every word of it. She asks follow-up questions about the lizard. She asks about Piper. She lets the story take as long as it needs. She drives home along the long way, the way that adds 4 minutes but passes the ridge where in spring the prickly pear blooms orange, and she has driven this way since Lily was a baby because Lily loves the ridge, and Mae loves watching her love it. They turn onto Mesa Road and Lily goes quiet. The motorcycles are parked in both directions as far as she can see. Men in leather sitting on bikes, standing in groups of 2 and 3, some drinking coffee from thermos cups, some talking quietly, some just standing with their arms crossed and their faces toward the horizon the way men stand when they have decided something and are waiting for the time to arrive. The late afternoon light is hitting the chrome in long horizontal lines, the road gold and silver in the 4 o'clock sun, and the whole scene has a quality that Lily, at 8 years old, will describe to her mother the following week as Like when something important is about to happen in a movie, Mom. You know that feeling? Mae knows that feeling. She parks. She gets out. Hawk is leaning against the fence post at the edge of her lot, the same post where the hawk sits every morning. The bird, she realizes, is gone today, and he looks up when she walks over. Lily is beside her, holding Captain by one ear, staring openly at the nearest motorcycle with the unguarded curiosity of an 8-year-old who has not yet learned that staring is rude. "Is that yours?" Lily asks Hawk, pointing at the dark blue motorcycle. "It is," Hawk says. "What's his name?" A brief pause. "I call him Blue." Lily considers this seriously. That's a good name, she decides. Simple names are usually good for vehicles. Mae watches something happen in Hawk's face. It is the same thing that happens in a face when something unexpected reaches somewhere that has been closed for a while. It happens quietly, and he covers it quickly, but Mae sees it, and she files it away without comment. She takes Lily inside. She makes her a snack: apple slices, peanut butter, a glass of milk. She sits with her at the kitchen table, and Lily colors while Mae watches the clock and the window. The eviction notice is still on the table. Lily has not asked about it. Mae moves it to the counter without ceremony. At 4:30, Ghost appears at the back door. He knocks once, 2 quick raps. Mae opens it. He hands her a folded document, clean, professionally printed, a letterhead from a law firm in Tucson. "Injunction," he says. "Filed this afternoon. It stays any eviction attempt pending review of the unlawful eviction claim." He pauses. "Judge signed it 40 minutes ago." Mae holds the document in both hands. She reads the first paragraph twice. "It means he can't touch you tonight," Ghost says. "Legally, what we're here for is to make sure that message gets received clearly." She nods. He nods back. He walks back toward the road. She puts the injunction in the folder with the blue rubber band. She puts the folder back in the box by the front door. She goes back to the kitchen and sits with Lily and her coloring books. At 5:40, she hears the first vehicle. Not a motorcycle, a truck. Heavy, slow, the crunch of tires on the gravel approach to Mesa Road. Then another vehicle behind it. She goes to the window. 2 Sheriff's Department SUVs and a pickup truck, the pickup belonging to Raymond Cutler. She knows it by the busted left running light, has known that truck since she moved in, has always found it mildly satisfying that he can't be bothered to fix it. They approach slowly. Then they stop. Because of course they stop. Because between those vehicles and Mae's front door, there are 214 motorcycles parked along every inch of Mesa Road, and 214 men standing or sitting among them, and the road has never in its life looked like this. Not once. The sheriff's SUVs idle at the entrance to the road for a long moment. Through the window, Mae watches them just sit there, headlights on in the early November dusk, not moving. She steps outside. The air is cold now, properly cold, the desert giving back every degree it borrowed from the sun during the day. She can see her breath. She walks to the road, and Hawk falls into step beside her without a word, and then Tank on her other side, and then Preacher behind, and then Ghost is simply there, as Ghost tends to be. They walk to where the sheriff's vehicles have stopped. Dale Rourke gets out of the first SUV. He is a thick man, mid-50s, with the look of someone who has spent 20 years being the most powerful person in most rooms, and has forgotten what it feels like not to be. He has 2 deputies behind him. One of them is very young and looks profoundly unhappy about this evening. Raymond Cutler stays in his truck. Mae notes this with a cold clarity. Rourke looks at the road. He looks at the motorcycles. He looks at the men. He looks at Hawk. He looks at Mae. He does not look pale exactly, but there is something in his face that has rearranged itself since he left the station this afternoon, some assumption that has quietly evacuated the premises. "Ms. Whitfield," he starts. "Sheriff." Mae's voice is steady. She has been practicing steady for a long time. "I have a document for you." She holds out the injunction. He does not reach for it immediately. She extends her arm a little further. He takes it. She watches him read. She watches his jaw do a small, tight thing at the second paragraph. "Where did this come from?" he says. "Tucson," Preacher says, from just behind Mae's shoulder. Judge Harmon's signature is on page 2. Rourke looks up. He looks at the 214 men standing along Mesa Road in the last light of the day. The chrome of the motorcycles catches the headlights. It is a spectacular and entirely accidental beauty, Mae will think later. All that light and metal in the cold air. Raymond Cutler's window rolls down 3 inches. "Dale!" he calls out, his voice tight, a man trying to sound in control of a situation that is currently outside his experience. Rourke does not look at him. He looks at Mae. He looks at the injunction in his hand. And then he folds it and puts it in his jacket pocket, and he says very quietly, "I'll be in touch with the county office in the morning." That is it. That is the whole of it. No standoff, no shouted ultimatum, no dramatic reversal, just a man holding a document and making the correct calculation about what this evening was going to cost him if he pushed it forward. He gets back in his SUV. His young deputy looks visibly relieved. The second deputy hasn't moved from beside the door and doesn't seem to know which direction to go. Cutler's truck sits for another 30 seconds. Mae can see the silhouette of him through the windshield, the dim interior light catching the shape of a man who is recalculating. Then the truck reverses, slow and careful, and turns back toward the highway. Rourke's vehicles follow. The road goes quiet. And then something happens among the 214 men along Mesa Road that Mae does not expect. Darlene from Lot 7 calls it later a sound, not cheering, more like a single exhalation from a very large number of lungs, a collective letting go of held breath, a sound that is the acoustic shape of relief. Then there is noise. Then there is, briefly, the deep-chested roar of 100 engines turning over at once, an involuntary exclamation, and Lily, who has appeared on the front step wrapped in a blanket because she is her mother's daughter and cannot stay inside when important things are happening outside, covers her ears with her hands and grins with her gap-toothed grin, and it is this image, this specific image, that Mae will carry for the rest of her life. That night, the riders do not leave immediately. Some do, in 1s and 2s and 3s, heading back north, their taillights disappearing around the mesa, and the sound of them going diminishes slowly, the way a tide pulls back, not all at once but in steady increments. But a core group stays, Hawk and Tank and Preacher and Ghost, and perhaps 40 others, and they light a fire in the open lot behind Mae's trailer, the empty lot that Cutler had been planning to develop, and they sit around it with thermoses of coffee and sandwiches that someone produced from a saddlebag, and Mae has no idea when that was arranged. Mae sits near the fire with Lily asleep against her side, the blanket wrapped around both of them, Lily's head on her shoulder, Captain the stuffed dog clutched loosely in one small hand, the firelight doing something warm and wavering across her face. Hawk sits across the fire. He has taken off his vest, which surprises her, and he is just a man now in a dark Henley and worn jeans, his hands around a coffee cup, looking at the fire the way people look at fires when they are letting their thoughts run wherever they want to go. "You do this often?" Mae asks. He looks up. "Often enough." "Why?" He is quiet for a while, long enough that she thinks he might not answer. Then he says, "A long time ago, someone needed something and I was in the wrong place." He looks at the fire. "I had a lot of years after that where I was useful to no one." Another pause, and the fire shifts, and the light moves across the scar on his jawline. Figured out eventually that the distance between those two things was just a decision. Mae looks at Lily's sleeping face, at the gap where her front teeth should be, at Captain's worn-out eyes. "She'll remember this," Mae says. "When she's older, she'll remember tonight." "Good," Hawk says. "Let her remember it as normal. that when someone needs help, people come. Mae does not have an answer for that. She does not need one. She sits with it for a while instead, holding it the way you hold something you have wanted for a long time and are surprised to find is real and solid and exactly the weight you imagined. Preacher comes to sit beside her at some point. He is the quietest of the four men, and his quietness has a quality she can only call theological. The silence of someone who thinks carefully about what is worth saying. He tells her about the lawyer in Tucson. Her name is Rosa Medina, he says, and she has taken pro bono cases for unlawful eviction before, and she will not charge Mae anything, and she is very good. The case is strong, Preacher says. What Cutler did is documented. The town hall record, the timing of the notice, the invalid clause. Rosa can bring it before a housing court within 60 days. If it goes the way it should, you get to stay. Might be able to get the other 11 families protected under the same action. Mae breathes in, breathes out. What if it doesn't go the way it should? Preacher turns his coffee cup in his hands. Then we come back, he says simply. And because of the way he says it, without drama, without performance as a statement of arithmetic, she believes him without question. Tank, at some point in the middle of the night, teaches Lily a card trick that he learned from a man named Dobrescu in a card game outside of Albuquerque in 2015 and has taught to approximately no one else because, as he explains, he has been saving it for a situation that warranted it. Lily is asleep, so he teaches it to Mae instead, and she gets it wrong 6 times in a row and right on the 7th. And when she gets it right, Tank's face opens up like a window and he says, "There it is," with a satisfaction entirely out of proportion to the achievement. And Mae laughs for the first time in she cannot count how many days. Ghost remains at the perimeter. He is the kind of man who understands his function to be watchfulness, and he performs it without complaint and without fanfare. And Mae finds, after a while, that his presence at the edge of the firelight is itself a kind of comfort. Someone watching. Someone standing between the quiet warmth of this fire and whatever is still out there in the dark. By midnight, the fire has burned to embers. Lily transferred herself to her own bed at some point, still holding Captain, guided down the hall by Mae's hand without waking. Most of the riders have gone. The road is quiet. The chrome of the few remaining motorcycles reflects nothing but starlight now, which is its own kind of spectacular thing in an Arizona sky in November, when the cold has burned the air clean and the stars are the particular stars of the high desert that always seem closer than they have any business being. Hawk is still sitting near the embers when Mae comes back outside with her coffee mug. The mug from this morning. She had not packed it. She still doesn't know why. She sits on the step. He is a few feet away, his boots touching the edge of the ash ring. "Elena," she says. He looks up. "I heard the name," she says. "Earlier, in the diner." He is quiet. "I'm sorry," Mae says, and she means it with the specific and terrible weight of someone who understands the particular arithmetic of losing someone to a world that failed to protect them. "She would have liked you," Hawk says after a moment. Mae does not know what to do with that. She holds her coffee mug in both hands, the way she held it this morning, the way she held it at 6 a.m. standing at the kitchen window with the eviction notice on the table and the hawk on the fence post and the whole day still unwritten in front of her. The mug is warm. The night is cold. The embers are orange and gray. "What happens now?" she asks. "Tomorrow morning. Rosa calls you before 8. You call the county housing office and tell them you have legal representation and an injunction. You go to work. You pour coffee." He looks at the embers. "And you stay." Mae looks out at the road. Empty now, mostly. The last 2 riders who stayed are walking toward their bikes. One of them lifts a hand as he goes. The slow, easy wave of a man leaving a place he expects to return to. She stays. That is the whole of it. in one direction. But the story does not end in the night. It continues into the days that follow, which are quieter and more ordinary, but equally important. Because the ordinary days are the ones where the real work happens. Rosa Medina calls at 7:52 on Wednesday morning. She has a voice like someone who spends a lot of time in rooms where people try to talk over her and has decided not to let that happen. She lays out the case in 11 minutes. Mae listens and takes notes on the back of an old receipt because the legal pad is in the box by the front door. At the end, Rosa says, "I need you to get me the bank records for every payment." Mae says, "I have them." Rosa says, "Of course you do." The injunction holds through the month. The housing court case is filed within 40 days, which is faster than Preacher had predicted. 12 families on Mesa Road are ultimately included in the claim. The county housing office, upon discovering that 12 documented cases of potentially unlawful eviction were about to become a matter of public court record, suddenly develops a strong institutional interest in investigating Raymond Cutler's use of that lease clause. The state tenancy amendment from 2021 is, as Hawk's margin note had stated, exactly what it says. The clause is found to be inapplicable. The eviction notices are voided. Sheriff Dale Rourke does not come back to Mesa Road. Raymond Cutler does not develop the south lot. These outcomes are not guaranteed in the hours before they happen, and there are weeks of waiting and silence and the particular uncertainty of legal processes where you have done everything right and are still waiting to see whether the correct thing wins. Mae gets through those weeks the way she has gotten through everything, by showing up, by pouring coffee, by bringing Lily her breakfast, by keeping the folder with the blue rubber band exactly where it is and not opening it unless she needs to, because she needs it to feel solid and present and there. Lily asks in the second week of December why those men came. She asks it at dinner, out of nowhere, the way 8-year